that I want to give you guys. As you guys know, those of you that are new to the hub, to the community, my name is Dr. Rashana Smith. I'm a minister. I am now a pastor alongside my husband, Freedom City Worship Center here in Atlanta, Georgia. I am also the visionary founder and CEO of the Visionary School, where we help women make healing a lifestyle, align themselves with God's version of who they are, and create the abundant life. And so I believe wholeheartedly in the 3 V's: vision, voice, and value. I believe that, because women play a lot of roles in other people's lives, in so many other avenues of life, sometimes we get stuck in those roles that we play in other people's life, whether it's a wife, or whether it's a friend, whether it's a daughter, whether it's a mom. We kind of get stuck and we don't give ourselves permission to truly live the abundant life, or to live in alignment with who God called us to be from the beginning. And so this is going to be your permission week. All right. So I see 10 of you guys coming in. Welcome, Kira. Those of you that are coming in, I want you to say, I give myself permission to be who God has called me to be. This is going to be your permission room tonight. All right. Welcome, Ayana. Welcome, everybody. I see everybody coming in as I speak. All right. So let me set the atmosphere, and we're going to say a quick prayer, and then we're going to get started. I do believe the Lord would allow me anytime I come on to do something like this. Usually he allows me to minister prophetically to some people as he allows us to release the word of truth. And so I'm expecting God to speak in some way. I'm expecting anybody expecting God to say something. Listen, when you pull on God and God knows that you need a word from him, the Lord will meet you at your place of expectation. And so we want to raise our expectation tonight. We want to make sure that we're living in this place of expectation where we expect God to move. We expect God to speak. We expect God, hallelujah, to shift some things in us. I even am expecting God to lift the fog. Many of you feel like there's a separation between who you are and who you truly are and who you have become. And so today we're going to try to make that and break down that wall of separation that you feel between who you truly are and who you have become. Listen, God does not want us to have dual personalities, and he doesn't want us to live a double life, but God wants us to live an abundant whole life, the life that he ordained for us to have. And so, hello, Kesia. Welcome. Thank you so much. I think Kesia and Denise and Monica Lucas and Miss Lynn were the first, and Pastor Tina again were the first people to sign up for this class. And so I have some resources for you guys. But that's right. I'm giving myself permission to be who God has called me to be. Sometimes we need permission. And so listen, if you need permission, look at me. God took me out of a place where I didn't understand who I was, and I was living a life that was beneath my own potential, that was beneath what he called me to live. And God began to show me the reason why I was living that way is because I needed to be healed, and I refused to release it. So y'all, this is a lane that I've been in for like 7 years. And so I want to share with you some things that God has released to me during this 3 weeks that we're together. You can meet me here every Monday. I'm also going to give you guys liberty to go live inside the group, to post inside the group. We want to get to know you. Please post a picture of yourself and tell us a little bit about you, like where you live, where you reside, and what you're expecting during this 3 weeks. You guys have full access to the replays, and also I'm going to give you an extra 30 days. So you'll have 30 days after the last day that we have class. All right. And so let's go into prayer, because y'all know I'll get caught up in exalting God, and we'll be on cloud 11, not on cloud 9. Welcome, Miss Jeannie. Welcome, Shantae. Welcome, all of you guys, Lady Charlotte, all of you guys that are coming in. Father, we bless you tonight. We thank you, Lord, that your heaven is open before us. Heaven is open to us tonight. We thank you, Lord God, that you have pried my mouth open tonight, and that you are also taking the muzzle off the mouth of your women, that you are causing their mouths, hallelujah, to speak the truth tonight, that you're causing us to align with you, and we're going to dig deeper than we've ever dug before. God, give us, Lord God, the insight, the clarity, the momentum that we need to move forward. We come out of stuck, complacent places. We come out of conflict. We come out of overthinking. We come out of unworthiness and all those things that try to hinder us and hold us back and box us in. We thank you that we will no longer overthink. We will not give our pain a pass or allow the things that's happened to us to become our story. God, we thank you that you are giving us our pen back and we're writing a new story. A new narrative is coming out of tonight. Come on, I don't know about y'all, but I feel the presence of God already. God has given us new pens to write a new story, to pen a new story. No more sob stories, no more pity parties, no more woe is me. But God is giving you the ability to rewrite your life and rewrite your story according to his covenant that he made with you before you were even formed in your mother's womb. Listen, God made a covenant with the real you. Y'all know when I start look shaking and doing all that, he acting up. Listen, God has made a covenant. You're like, Lord, why don't I see the promises? It's because God made a covenant with the real you. And until you come into alignment with the real you, the core of who you are, you're not going to see the promise, because the promise belongs to the one that God made a covenant with. And it was in the time that I was searching for who I was and deciding that I was going to go on this journey called release and healing, that God began to show me. He said, Rashana, I had all this stuff stored up for you, but I could not come into covenant with this version of you. I could not come into covenant with the one, my God, that allowed people to dictate her movement. I could not come into covenant with the one that was scared to do what I called her to do. I could not come into covenant with the fearful one. I could not come into covenant with her, because then you would have stopped. And so you had to keep searching for the one that I came in covenant with. Listen. Come on. Somebody say, I'm going to find the one that God is in covenant with. And so when you tap into that girl, that woman that God has made a covenant with, that's the one that lives the abundant life. That's the one that God will push and thrust into the world. Come on, with favor and acceleration. That's the one that God has approved whatever you touch. Come on. That's the one. And it wasn't just about what I did particularly, but it was about the alignment of knowing who I was. And so tonight, this week is about this, week one is about obedience, honesty, and identity. I want y'all to put that in the comments. This week is about honesty, obedience, and identity. And I gave y'all some homework. And I want those of you that want to be a part of the community, that I'll give you guys some information on how you can be a part of the community for just $7 for the whole entire 21 days that we're together. It's $7. And you guys, if y'all didn't purchase it, then you can let me know, and I'll send you the link for that so that you can meet us on Thursday. So on Thursday, we will get together and we will go over the homework. We will go over and discuss your results of what you came up with in the area of each healing principle every week. So your honesty has a page, and then your obedience has a page, and then your identity has a page. And so what we're doing is just pulling back layers and allowing you to come into the new you, the real you, the one that maybe you haven't discovered before or haven't given permission to emerge yet. But God is calling her forth. God is calling her to the forefront. He's calling her to the surface. God is calling the one that he ordained and came into covenant with before you were even formed in your mother's womb. So I want to welcome you guys to the Your Healing Waits, Healing the Woman Within. Okay. Welcome to our Facebook group. And you guys, we have a mantra for the school. Every time we have a course, whether it's an extended course, if it's some type of empowerment, if it's a ministry course, if it's an accelerator, whatever it is, it could be a long extended course. We have 3 things that we ensure that we do. And those things are, we make sure that women inside of our courses feel safe, seen, and served. We don't want you to leave here not feeling seen. We don't want you to leave here not feeling served. And we definitely don't want you to not be in this hub, in this community, and don't feel safe. And so we pride ourselves on making all of you feel seen, served, and safe. Okay, because that is the biggest way for you to come into breakthrough. When you feel safe, you let your walls down and you allow God to flood you with truth. And so tonight, because honesty is one of our principles, then we have to go back to a place where we can really deal with the ugly truth. We can really deal with the things that we may not have been able to deal with before. So during our time together, we're going to be using what I call a reset framework. And that reset framework has 3 pillars. Week 1, we're going to deal with release, and that's releasing the expired and what no longer serves you. Reset week number 2 is reclaim. So reclaiming your identity and then realign with God's version of who you are. And so before we complete this journey, I believe you will be ready to embrace healing as a lifestyle, not just an accomplishment. You know, I learned that when I first got a big portion of my healing, I thought that healing would be something that I would say, oh, I did that in 1997 and I'm done. Like, I ain't got to do that no more. You know, I really thought that because I wasn't aware of the power of healing. I underrated healing. I thought that it was something that I just had to do one time. But over the course of the last 7, almost 8 years now, I have discovered that the more I heal, the more power I walk in. The more I heal, the more clarity God gives me. And so for those of you that are seeking clarity, it means it's time for you to go deeper in your healing. Anytime you're searching for clarity and you seem like you're in a fog and things are not clear to you, that means something is hidden and God has to heal something on the inside of you. Because if you are healed, then it creates movement and momentum, and God releases you with this acceleration, because acceleration is God's approval rate. Come on. So when we look at God is not trying to stop us, God is trying to accelerate us, then we understand that when we feel stopped, that means there's something internal that is hindering us and stopping us from moving forward. And so the more you heal, the more clarity you will receive. Okay, so if you need clarity, then you need to heal deeper. Okay, so in the comments, I want you to put, I'm ready to be honest about where I am. I'm ready to be honest about where I am. I'm ready to be honest about where I am. One of the most rewarding and most powerful seasons of my life is when I was confronted with people that were not afraid to put pressure on me to be honest. Come on. It was like I'm that Del Marie Stampley, you know, I'm that Apostle Leotis Sibley. I'm that person. I'm that Rhonda Travis. Like I can be that for you, because one of the most powerful places and one of the most elevated places you will ever encounter is when you're faced with someone that doesn't mind putting positive pressure on you to deal with the ugly truth, to deal with, we know that you've done some work. We know you saved. We know you love God and you pray every now and then, but we're talking about the things that's still living on the inside of you. We're talking about the things that still make you shrink and downsize your dream. We're talking about the things that make you give away your power. We're talking about the things, that's it, Brooksy. We're talking about the things that hinder you from walking in your fullest potential and what God has called you and shows you belongs to you. So when we're not walking in a whole place, when we're not walking in the fullness of what God says, that means we need to take a look within. And even if God is telling us to take a look within because we're in a good place, that means God is trying to take us deeper in our identity. And so tonight we're going to confront things that most people avoid. We're going to confront things that most people avoid. Who you have become versus who you are at the core. That's 2 separate people. Most of the time, who I have become as a result of what I have endured, but who I am at the core is screaming to be let out. Y'all, I'm just going to teach it the way that God gave it to me and the way I went through it. I had to be willing to be honest with myself and say, who I am right now Not this was years ago, but I had to confront myself. Come on. You got to be okay with confronting yourself and saying who you have become is not who you are at the core. And there's another version of you that's waiting and screaming, and she wants to be let out. She wants to be freed to come to the surface, right? And so who I became was a result of pain, was a result of abandonment, was a result of unmet needs as a child. It was a result of trauma that was unaddressed, was a result of things that I didn't have the ability to process as a young person, and just housed it on the inside of me and pressed it down and packed it down until I couldn't deal with it anymore. Until I couldn't hide it anymore. So somewhere along the way, life, trauma, people pleasing, and pain started shaping this version of who you are that looks strong, because we know that looks can be deceiving. You look strong, but in reality, you are in desperate need of help. And one of the most powerful things that you could ever do is ask for help. One of the things that I remember as a kid when I was in the 3rd grade, I ended up repeating the 3rd grade because when I was in the 2nd grade, my voice was taken. Come on. See, I had to backtrack and go way back to the 2nd grade because when I was in the 2nd grade, my voice was taken. And so when I was in the 3rd grade, I went to the 3rd grade and I would not ask questions when I needed answers. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed that I had questions, even though that was a normal reaction to learning. I was afraid to raise my hand. I was ashamed of having questions. And it's because little by little, what happened to me took my freedom. And so if we be honest, slowly over time, your freedom has been taken. Okay? I'm glad you got in, Hope. Slowly, your freedom has been taken. So what I like to tell people to do is you have to learn to do a backtrack. And we may do this on Thursday where we backtrack where your freedom was lost in pockets of time. Because what I learned when I started doing the work of healing and release was that it didn't happen at one time. It happened over the course of my life. It happened when I was in the 2nd grade. It happened when I was in the 5th grade. It happened when I was 16. It happened, all of these things were pockets that took my freedom little by little. So when I got to 45, I was struggling with living a version that was true, and that was a reflection of who I truly was. I was hiding the real me, and she was housed on the inside of me, but I didn't give her permission to come out. She didn't have permission to emerge. And so those of you that are just coming in, I need you to say, I'm giving her permission to emerge tonight. Listen, you've got to know that there's a core you on the inside of you, and that's the one God has come into covenant with. And you've got to give her permission to emerge because she's still down there, and she's saying, listen, our freedom was taken years ago, little by little, because you refused to address it, or you didn't have the tools or the skill to address it. And so we lived like this for years. And so my story, for those of you that don't know my story, I have many stories about how God healed me from childhood trauma, from rejection from people in the church. God healed me from abuse. We're talking about emotional and physical abuse. God healed me from second guessing, feeling unworthy, overthinking. God, he healed me from imposter syndrome and being paranoid and being a people pleaser. See, some of us don't know that people pleasing came from a place of trauma. And when you allow other people to dictate what makes you happy, in other words, you should be happy because I'm doing this, or they dictate what happiness looks like for you, then that means you are a people pleaser. And it came from a place where your voice was taken when you were small or younger, and you allowed your voice to be taken. Oh, come on. So we have to understand that all of these pockets of time has little by little taken our freedom. And that's why we trade off, our freedom for any little bitty thing, because our unmet need from us being a little child was never met. And any unmet need you still live with, you'll spend your whole lifetime looking for it as an adult. I'm going to say that again. Any unmet need you refuse to address, you will spend the rest of your life consciously or unconsciously looking for someone to meet that unmet need as a child. So what we have to do is realize that when we were children, we had an unmet need that we felt like we needed and we didn't receive. And as a result of that, if we don't come into a place of identity and understanding about that thing will rule the way we move. It'll rule the way we live our life. It'll rule how we allow people to orchestrate and navigate our lives. They will be the captain of our life instead of us and God telling us what we can and can't do. Then other people and their thoughts and expectations will be the thing that course corrects us and takes us on down another path. So what I had to see was the reason why I was people pleasing, not because I was nice. It was because I had an unmet need as a child, and I thought that people pleasing would cause me to be accepted and loved. So what I did, I came into agreement with the spirit of people pleasing so that I didn't have to feel like I wasn't wanted. Oh, I just want to talk. I just want to talk. See, what happens is when we have these unmet needs, listen, I don't know if I need to just stay right there. When we have these unmet needs, these things that we have not addressed as children, listen, some of us say, well, Dr. Rashana, I done did a little digging, but you ain't dug deep enough. Until you live in the life that matches you, until what you see and what you wake up to is the same. Oh, I'm about to get loose in here. Until what you visualize in your dream and what you wake up to is the same. That means God has a need to do something else in you. And I'm telling you, as you begin to dig, you're going to have to go back to some pockets of time, and you're going to have to trace back your steps and take back your freedom over those things that took your identity. Yeah, that took your identity and took your truth. And so a little bit at a time, I went into a shell. Y'all, when I was small, I was bubbly. I'm back bubbly. They'd be like, that's the bubbliest prophetess I ever see. That's because I'm like, child, just because of title, you think you're going to put me back in the box? I lived in the box for 40 years. I ain't going back in the box. Now, this might be for somebody. Somebody say I'm coming out the box and I'm not going back in. Slowly, the enemy designed this box for me to slowly agree to. And I slowly, got in the box. At first it was a leg, and then it was my body, and then I was standing in it, and then I sat down in it. Then he put the lid on. Come on. Then, I would peek out every now and then. But there were pockets of time that over time made me feel unqualified, unworthy, and even in some cases, I wanted to disappear. Ooh, anybody, God told you to go in rooms, but the enemy whispers in your ear, the critic on the inside of you, or is whispering in your ear that when you go in the room, you're not going to be accepted. When you go in the room, no one's going to connect to you. When you go in the room, everybody else is above you. They're far ahead of you, that you're not ready to go in the room. Listen, this is the spirit that tries to talk you out of being in places that God has called you to step into. And that's how you know you're dealing with something that you need to uncover. When you find yourself hiding and retreating, that means there's something that you need to uncover. And so I want to give you a definition of release. I'm going to give you several definitions of release. And I want those of you that what speaks to you by engaging, I want you to put it in the comments. Okay? I want you to put it in the comments. Yeah, you're coming out of the box and you're not going back in. Okay? All right. So release. Release is our first week. This is something that saved my life. If I wouldn't have learned how to release, I would not be before you. I would not be coaching full-time. I would not be in full-time ministry. I would not be living the life that I'm living. I probably wouldn't be living in Atlanta. I probably would not have the freedom I have. I wouldn't have the friends I have. My release equaled the covenant life that God had for me. The release equaled the divine, what God had for me. Okay, so when you decide that you're going to release, you're not only releasing people, but you're releasing versions of yourself that are really not the real you. You're releasing versions of yourself that don't align with the covenant that God has made with you. And so I'm going to give you several definitions. Release is the key that unlocks your divine life. Release is the key that unlocks your divine life. So some of us are surviving, and it's because we refuse to make release a lifestyle. Healing is the reward of releasing. I can't heal myself. Somebody say this is going to make sense to you. I can't heal myself. But when I do the work of release and I begin to empty out and I begin to purge out and I begin to allow God to show me what needs to be let go, what needs to be released out of me, God begins to heal. Okay? God begins to heal, because the scripture says that he cannot pour new wine into old wineskins unless it burst and spoil. So what we're doing, we're asking God for something new, but we're housing all of this expired and old things on the inside of us. So release is the key that unlocks your divine life. Release has nothing to do with who and what happened to you, but everything to do with what you hold the power to do for yourself. Now, I don't expect y'all to write that in the comments, but I want you to write it down in your journal. Release has nothing to do with who and what happened to you, but it has everything to do what you hold the power to do for yourself. See, I don't have to wait on somebody else to release me. I can do the work of release myself, and I can release myself and them. Listen, Kira, I don't have to wait on somebody to apologize to me to walk in release. I learned this several years ago. The Lord began to speak to me and tell me, he said, Rashana, all your life you thought you had to be released when they apologized. But how about you can decide that it's not about what they did to you, but it's about the power that you have to do something for yourself. You don't have to wait on somebody else to give you release. You can release yourself and them. Because many of us are wondering, why are we haunted? Why are we confused? Why do we feel conflicted? And it's because we're housing not only the experience, but the people on the inside of us that did the thing that we're trying to run away from. They are housed on the inside of us too. And so I didn't get it until later that not only was the emotional bondage that was connected to the person on the inside of me stuck, but also a version of the person that they hurt was stuck on the inside of me. She couldn't be released until I was willing to release them and the experience. So listen, it's deep, y'all. It's deep. It's deep. You cannot release what you don't acknowledge. What you don't acknowledge. Okay? Now, this one is, what I believe you guys will appreciate at the end of this 3-week mini course. Release is reversal. Everybody's looking for restoration. We're looking for a turnaround. You can't get the reversal until you release, because what was done is undone with the release. I can go right there. I said the release causes what was done to be undone. So when you come into release and you live in the power of releasing people and the things that they did to you, then you come into your divine reversal, so that what was done to you is undone. The shackles or the chains, listen, are broken and the ties are released. We wondering how we gonna get free, and it's because you have to release them to be unchained and untied away from them, so that whatever they did to you can be undone. So I'm going to give y'all 3 notes about release to reset, and then I'm going to give y'all some other notes about release, okay? All right, we're making good time. I want to give you notes to release to reset, because this week is about resetting, starting over, going into the reversal, allowing God to slowly erase what was done that you thought you could never get over. The abuse, the mishandling, the hatred, the scandalizing, the shame, the guilt, the self-hatred, the suicidal thoughts, the low living, the poverty mentality, the pity parties, the people pleasing. Come on, all of those things that you came into covenant with, into agreement with, that you thought was a part of your personality, God is going to reverse and undo what was done. But you have to understand, for you to get the reset, for God to reset your life so that you can start over and start afresh in a new life, you have to be willing to release. Y'all, this is, listen, I always tell people this, and I just say, Lord, why I didn't meet somebody that I had to go through it. I had to go through it. And so that's why, you know, y'all say, well, oh, Dr. Rashawn, that's all you talk about. That's because I understand the power of release and healing. I understand without the work of release, I ain't talking about doing something in your head. I'm talking about walking through release, doing the work of release. You won't get the reset. You won't get the reversal. He can't erase it because you have refused to let go of what is expired. Okay? So number 1, you have to choose you over them. I need y'all to put this in the comments. These are small things. I need you to say, I choose me over them. I need everybody, all of y'all that are on here with me live, those of you that coming back watching the replay, listen, I need y'all to put it on. It don't matter if you watch this at 3 a.m. in the morning. If you watch it again and you have to go back and watch it because it was loaded and it was so much you couldn't write it all down, listen, put it in the comments. Engage with me in the comments. Listen, you cannot choose them over you. Somebody need to put in the comments, I choose me over them. The one that scarred me, the one that deceived me, the one that harmed me, the one that tricked me, the one that raped me, molested me, the one that talked down to me and took my self-esteem, the one that abandoned me and neglected me. Listen, I have to choose me over them. I have to. Because what happens is when we choose them over us, we never have a healthy sense of direction because other people are our captains or our pilots and navigation systems in life. And what they say goes. And nobody can hear God for you. You have to hear God for yourself. So you have to decide that you have to choose you over the memory of what was done. You have to choose you. They can't be more powerful than your future. They cannot have more power over you than what God has prepared for you to walk in. Y'all, listen, when I started doing this, God started just digging up people in my life. I was so open in my prayer closet. God was just digging up people in my life. And he was like, you're going to determine how far you go and how free you are by how deep you go. And he says, nobody's off limits. Nobody's off limits. So, now, I'm not going to ask you guys to say this, but whoever that is for, I need you to put that in the comments. Nobody's off limits. Not my mom, not my dad, not my grandfather, not my BFF, not my husband, not my kids. I have to choose me over them. The people that hurt me, the people that were supposed to stand for me, the people that I trusted, the people that took my innocence. I have to choose me over them. I have to choose me over the memory. I have to choose me over what happened to me and what they perpetrated against me. Nobody is off limits. Everybody is, listen, everybody's being put on the table. That's it. Nobody's off limits. So you have to, number two, you have to stop blaming them for where you are and how you feel. I'm going to say that again. That's a hard pill to swallow. When you come into release, you take your power back by not allowing what they did to you or how you felt about what they did to you to control where you are and how you feel about your life. So, you know how when someone does something to you, because what trauma does, trauma paralyzes you at that age. So say for instance, when you're 8, just say you're 12, okay? Because a lot of people, before they come into puberty or pre-puberty, they go through a lot of things, right? Say you had something traumatic happen to you when you were 12 years old. If you never deal with the trauma and you never process it correctly and release it, then a version, that 12-year-old version is still on the inside of you. And what is housed on the inside of you at particular times of your life, it will show, it will rise up in you, and it will dictate your path in life. And so what I learned was at different seasons of my life, the 12-year-old that was triggered would emerge based on whatever the situation was. And if it was something pertaining to the 5-year-old in me that was triggered, she would emerge. I had all these unhealed versions of me on the inside that I needed to allow to be released out of me, because now I was being controlled at different times of my life instead of me being who God had called me to be. And so your unresolved issues, negative emotions will control your decisions if they are not released. I'm going to say that again. When you carry or hide unresolved issues, your negative emotions control your decisions. Why did I choose the person that I was with? You chose them because of the trauma you experienced when you were 12. Why did I allow myself to be in that friendship where I was being misused and mishandled, and my friend went with my husband and she was talking behind my back? Why did I allow that? Because as a child, you had an unmet need, and that version of you is still making decisions. Come on. Even now, because she has not been released of her duties. So when we start making decisions, you need to make sure it's not a traumatized version of you that's making a decision. Well, I want to move, but I've been stuck in this small town living beneath my own potential. I have a degree. I could be earning $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 plus more. But because I'm afraid, and I was told I wasn't good enough when I was in the 6th grade, and a teacher did something to me, and that thing traumatized me, and I've never healed from it. That unhealed version of me is still saying we can't move to the city because I'll never survive. What we are coming in contact with is unhealed versions of ourselves. And they are making decisions about your future. They are telling you what you can and can't do, where you can and can't go, who you can and cannot connect with, who's not going to accept you, who will accept you, and they are navigating you right to the ghetto and the hood. They're going to keep you downsizing down and downgrading your vision till you downgraded out of it to where what you think about yourself looks nothing like what God says. See, trauma is in the business of downgrading. What trauma does slowly is get you to downsize and downgrade your life. so that what was meant for you, you will never get to, because you keep downsizing and downgrading what God has shown you, because you can't come into agreement with the covenant of the divine version that God is calling you to, because you've never dealt with your trauma on the inside. So some of us are supposed to be millionaires and supposed to be traveling. We're supposed to be signing people's checks. We're supposed to be making impact. We're supposed to be on stages. Some of us supposed to be married. Come on. Some of us supposed to be doing all these other things, writing books and making impact and traveling all over the globe and witnesses and bringing people into the body. Some of us are supposed to be mothering people and in ministry. Some of us supposed to be doing all kind of great exploits, but because of your trauma got you to downsize every time you did not deal with it. It downsized and downgraded your vision of who you were and what you could do. Oh, I know I'm talking. Why? Because what God showed me, he said, Rashana, every time you didn't heal and you were traumatized and that thing stuck you and took your growth, he said it made you downsize what you could do. And you came into agreement with an inferior version of yourself that could not come into agreement with the promise. Because trauma told her she wasn't ready, that she wasn't worthy, that was out of her league. But how many of you know I'm living the life that I didn't even see for myself? Why? Because I decided that I was going to heal and remove every version, every old expired version out of me that came into agreement with trauma. Now I need all of y'all to be on here, that's on here right now, to tell me, listen, I'm coming out of agreement with every traumatized version of myself. This is so good. I'm coming out of agreement. Come on, Brooke. I'm coming out of I'm coming out of agreement with every traumatized version of myself. I will not come into agreement with her downsizing and downgrading my life. That is not going to happen moving forward. She's taken enough time, enough energy, and enough of my dream from me. No more. I am not coming into agreement. I release them. And when you release the pain and your accuser, your abuser, your deceiver, your manipulator, the one that mishandled you, the one that abused you, when you release them, you're also releasing you're releasing the version of you that's connected to them. Come on. Don't y'all know I've been teaching this for years, and every time I teach it, Denise has taken her and Charlotte has taken every release class I've ever taught. Let me show you what God showed me. Even the three of y'all that's took it every time I teach it. The Lord said, not only when you release are you releasing the emotion and the person, but you're releasing the version of you that was controlled by the thing. Woo! Did y'all hear what I said? I said, not only are you releasing the emotion, the baggage, the negative emotions, the hurt, the pain, not only are you releasing that, not only are you releasing the person that's connected to the experience that you really want to forget about and wish never happened, but you're releasing the version that they controlled. Come on. Come into the light, Caroline. Y'all want to get me started? Don't get me started. Listen, do not get me started. It's like the Lord said, come into the light, Caroline. Come into the light. You got to come into the light, Caroline. Jesus. Number three. You have to list the weights. Let me tell y'all, I have some homework for you guys, but I want y'all to list, L-I-S-T, the weights, W-E-I-G-H-T-S. You have to learn to list the weights you need to release. And some of you need to start typing now to help somebody else on here. Like, this is a safe place. Nobody can see your comments. Nobody can see your posts. Nobody can even see who's in this mini class. Nobody can see it. I've made it private. That's why it's so hard for people to find it. But you need to list, L-I-S-T, the weights, W-E-I-G-H-T-S. Denise said, coming to the light, Denise said. I mean, that's what God been coming to the light. Coming to the light. Right? So I want y'all to list as homework the weights. And some of you guys just organically, because you want to be free and God is telling you to be free and really help another woman by saying what one of your weights or some of your weights. So I want you to list them in the comments. What you never identify, you will never master. What you identify, what you refuse to identify, you will never master. Okay? I need you. I need y'all to write that down. What you never identify, you never will master. That's why the Lord put in the scripture, for we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. When you know his devices, then you can intercept them and block them. Right? But if you are ignorant of his devices, that means he can come in unaware. But when you can identify your weights, then you can master them. Y'all, this is so good. I want you to identify some weights that you know you need to release. And I'm going to give you some examples. Some ugly examples. Let's get some ugly examples. Okay? Some ugly examples. My mistakes, my secrets, betrayal, abandonment, unmet needs as a child, people's expectation. Those are the top 4 that I had to start with as it relates to the weights that I needed to release, right? I needed to release those weights because those things were shaping me into a version that God did not call. Okay, I'm going to tell you again, my mistakes were shaping me into a version God did not call. Self-doubt. That's good, Monica. Yeah, I'm gonna go on my computer so I can see you guys. Rejection. Yeah. So good. Disappointment. Yeah. Expired relationships. Yeah, so when you know you need to release the weights, you have to identify them so that you're not continually asking God, why am I stuck? Why do I feel conflicted? Why do I not have clarity? When you identify the weights, then you can begin to address them and master them. But if whatever goes unidentified will never be mastered. So you really have to be able to be honest. And one of mine was secrets. You know, I had some secrets that no one knew about except me and another person. But there was a lot of shame and guilt attached to those secrets. And because I never was honest about the secrets, I lived with imposter syndrome for years because I allowed the enemy to torment me and tell me I wasn't real because I had these secrets in my closet. But God, it seemed to other people that he was raising me up. Mental and verbal abuse. People project an image of me. Come on. That's good, Brandon, Lady Charlotte. That's good. See, you have to learn being disregarded, Ayana. Yes. So abandonment. So what we have to do is learn to list the weights so that we can identify them and then release them. Okay. You're not going to be able to release something you don't identify. That was mine, Miss Jeannie. I had secrets that kept me bound for years. And when you have secrets, you'll never be free. Somebody put that in the comments. Listen, your secrets will never allow you to be free. If you got skeletons in your closet, if you got things you want to take to your grave, if you will always have shame and guilt, you'll never come into the fullness of your freedom. But I'm telling y'all, each and every one of you guys that's on here, you are allowing the enemy to rob you through your secrets, those things that you keep hidden, those things that you are ashamed of. Listen, God says, listen, you gotta allow those things to come out in the open because shame and guilt is attached to secrets, and you'll never walk in the fullness of your freedom if you don't deal and release the secrets. You got to. Yeah. I know I went deep when I was living with my husband, and I think we had been married like 25 years. 24, 25 years, and I told him something that was a secret. I had been married to my husband 23, 24 years. He was like, huh? He was like, you just telling me that? I was like, because I was ashamed. I said, but God, I've been doing this release all my life. I mean, for the last 7, 8 years, I've been doing all this. And the deeper I go, the freer I get. Ooh, that's going to be somebody. I said, God showed me the deeper you go, the freer you get. And so the first year, you know, I didn't even think about the secrets. The first year was all about releasing people and what they had done to me, and the abuse, and, you know, the rejection and abandonment and neglect, emotional neglect. I wasn't neglected physically, but I was neglected emotionally. And so I had to deal with, you know, release all of that and release the things that were done to me. And then the third or fourth year, I started dealing with, you know, how people had done me in the church. There was some things that I needed to release the third and fourth year. And then it was other things, releasing friendships and people pleasing, and the spirit of obligation, expectation, and apology. The Lord, that like the fifth or sixth year, the Lord starts saying, okay, now you didn't release some of that other stuff from your childhood. Now you need to release apology. Listen, your life is a big apology, because you won't live out the fullest extent of who you know yourself to be. You don't live in your full truth. Oh, come on. When you can't live in your full truth, you live in an apology. And he said you can't show up as your quirky, bubbly, cheerful self because you worried about what people going to say. That's apology. You worried about people's expectation and what they'll accept and what they won't accept. And you worried about, listen, what people feel like that you obligated to do for them. You ain't obligated to do nothing. You ain't obligated to do that. But you got to let go of the weights, but you got to list them first so that you can release them and come out of agreement with them. All right? These are some of people's expectations. These are examples of people expectations, what people want you to do, how they want you to act. Do you know I literally gave somebody the power, Miss Jeannie, to tell me how to dress and how to act at a stage in my life? I literally gave somebody the power to make me live a downsized, downgraded version of myself, because I allowed them to shape how I acted, what I dressed, what I put on, who I interacted with. You better talk back to me. That right there is living up to people's expectation. He says, list and release the weights. What they will accept about you, what they won't accept and you'll get rejected because of, and what keeps you included. There are some people that go along, they get along because they want to be invited. But how many of you know you invited to a fake party? I don't want to be invited to a fake party, or a party where when the dust clears and I really need a prayer and I can't go to the same people that I was celebrating at that party. Listen, don't invite me. I don't want to be invited to the party just because you expect me to go along to get along. Okay? Now, y'all ready to get into the meat? Release is your place of promotion. It is your new dimension. It is where promises are fulfilled. And so not only is release emancipating yourself and letting go and deciding that you're going to release those people, the thing, and that version of you that's connected to the trauma, but it's also a place of promotion once you do it. So release as the action is letting go. But as a result, the place you arrive at is release. Ooh, come on. It's a place called promotion. It is the place called your new dimension. It is your place that promises are fulfilled. And so today we're going to talk about honesty, obedience, and identity. How much truth are you ignoring about who you are and what you know you're supposed to be doing and living? Because truth equals freedom. The more truth you deal with, the freer you are. The more secrets and lies you go along with, the more bound you are. It's just simple. The more truth I walk in, the freer I am. And if I can't allow myself to live in my highest version of my own truth, then I'm the reason why I'm bound. And so your level of truth you live in is equal to your access of freedom. I'm going to say that again. Your level of truth you live in is equal to the access you're granted. The access of freedom you're granted. So say, for instance, you're like, Lord, I just feel like I'm getting a little bit of freedom. And that's because you only live in a certain level of truth. But the more truth you live in, the greater the access of freedom. Because God says, if I give you more access with this imposter syndrome, with this competition spirit, if I allow you to come into access at this version, he said, you'll never arrive to the version that I called from the beginning. He said, so what I'll do, I'll give limited access. The more freedom you walk in, the more access of freedom that you receive. Okay? Y'all ready? Now, I've taught this before. I want you guys to, those of you that have never heard this, I want you to write this down. Y'all, we're almost there. Your heart reveals what's in it, but your mind has to agree to release it. So you have to not only ask God to show you what's in your heart, but you have to ask him to help you renew your mind. Because your heart reveals what's in it, but then your mind has to agree to release it. See, what happens is the heart wants to be free, but the mind will tell you she don't deserve to be released. You can't let that go. You got to take that to your grave. And so the mind has to come into agreement with the heart for it to be released. So good. So I was wondering why there was a yo-yo effect in my life where my heart really was grieving and wanted to let it go, but my mind was saying, no, she don't know who she dealing with, because my mind hadn't been renewed. I didn't have the mind of Christ. I didn't have the word on the inside of me. I didn't have a renewed mind. So I didn't have no word in me, and I didn't have a renewed mind. So my heart kept telling me, we got all this stuff housed on the inside of us, and we trying to let this go, but the mind wouldn't come into agreement with the release, so it stayed packed down on the inside of the heart. Your mind either reinforces the trauma or tells the heart a new story. The mind either reinforces the trauma or tells the heart a new story. So what happens is the heart reveals what's in it, right? The scripture says, I pray that your heart would be enlightened. In other words, in your heart is a bunch of truth. The heart of you really wants to live in truth. But because your mind is not regulated and it's not on the things of God, and because it hasn't been renewed, your mind stops the heart from releasing. Because you're like, we can't do that. You can't do that because she hadn't come back to you and apologized. That's too painful. No, the heart is saying we want to be free. But the mind either reinforces the trauma that the heart is telling it wants to release, or it gives the heart a new story. So really your mind has to be renewed and agree with the heart for you to come into release. Okay? Releasing is the beginning of true empowerment. You cannot be empowered if you're bound. So when people start talking about they're having an empowerment event but nobody's getting free, you didn't have no empowerment. Because empowerment means somebody got free. Oh, y'all talk back to me. Listen, when you start talking about empowerment means that somebody got free. The captive or somebody that was bound now is walking in a new level of freedom. So when you start talking about empowerment, I know Kimberly's getting ready to do something. I know Queen and a lot of my mentees host these empowerment events. Make sure that you allow God's presence to come in and loose the shackles and shift the mindset and release the captives. Why? Because you don't have an empowerment event unless somebody get free. If people leave bound and leave the same way they came, then you didn't empower anybody. Because empowerment means for somebody to leave free instead of bound. To empower means to sanction, to give access, to license, to entitle, to authorize. And so I want to give you 3 costs of not releasing. For those of you that are stubborn, I gotta tell y'all, for those of you that are stubborn, y'all, you like Dr. Rashana, it sounds easier than it is. I don't know if I can let this go. I'm gonna give you 3 top reasons or 3 costs of not releasing. The first one is confusion. You will remain in confusion when you refuse to release. You will be indecisive. You will not know what you need to do, or you will know what you need to do, but you will refuse to do it. Come on. When you do not release, you will always have a chaotic spirit. You will not be in peace. You will be in conflict within, and you will wrestle within. And you will never be able to create momentum because you are always wrestle with your next step, because indecisiveness is a fruit of not releasing. Number 2, when you refuse to release, the cost is the spirit of unworthiness. You feel undeserving, not fit, or you feel like you don't belong in spaces and places that God has already fashioned and framed your world for. So when we look at the cost of not releasing, the reason why you feel unworthy is because you haven't released some things and some versions of yourself that's causing you to feel unworthy or to feel undeserving or not fit for what God promised you. Y'all, this is so good. Number 3, the cost of not releasing. Cyclical behavior or cyclical living, repeating the past over and over. Your life has these interruptions, and it stops the big shifts, and it doesn't allow you to have anything rewarding in your life. You only see small progress, and you never can get excited or celebrate where you are and what you've accomplished. Why? Because you never get any big wins. Oh, I know I'm talking. Oh, Jesus. I was in a place in my late 40s where I was like, I don't believe I deserve to be celebrated. I haven't done anything big enough. And that's because I was full of trauma, and trauma will make you feel undeserving. It will make you feel like you living in this place where you can't never get a big win. You're never worthy of being celebrated. You're never in this place where there's a huge shift in your life. And it's because you repeat the past over and over and over, and it never stops you from getting to the big breakthrough. Jesus. Now I'm going to give you what release helps you do. Okay? The power of release. I need y'all to put that in here. The power of release. What happens when I release? When you release, you pay attention to you and what's best for you and the destiny that's on the inside of you. Okay? When you release, you pay attention to you. You are your biggest assignment. You pay attention to you, what's best for you, and the destiny that's on the inside of you. And how many of us know we always worry about, well, I'm worried about my kids. And baby, what's best for you is best for your kids. What's best for you is best for your husband. Because guess what? We're trying to feed people out of a ground and a field that haven't been sown into. And you're worried about how you're going to provide and sow into your family and sow into your children, your husband, and you haven't made yourself your biggest assignment. They're fed because you fed. They gonna starve because you starving. So the power of release. What does release does? It prioritizes what's important. When you release, you look at what's important versus what's not. When I started releasing, I remember I was getting ready to do my first event here in Atlanta, and I was telling God, I said, God, I don't have a church backing me. I don't have my church anymore. I don't have all this financial backing. I don't have people sowing into what I'm doing. This is all on me. And I don't want to be embarrassed. And I also don't want to lose money. I need you to partner with me. Like, I need to know. And the first thing that God began to show me was, he said, release this person. I was praying for God to partner with me, and God was telling me, release somebody. And because I didn't want to release her, I was like, well, what's that got to do with you partnering with me? And it was because God was telling me, when you release, then you prioritize what's most important. You are allowing a person to come between you and your destiny. They are not worth it. You are allowing a fumble, somebody fumbling you, somebody betraying you to dictate how you move in your future, they are not worth you blocking yourself out of your blessing of what God has prepared for you. So when you release, it puts everything in it, prioritize things in proper order. It makes you see the big picture. Number 2, it overthrows pettiness and procrastination. Oh, it overthrows. When you release, it overthrows pettiness. A lot of us, the truth, the whole truth is we need to overthrow pettiness in our life. What does it mean to be petty? It means to exhaust large amounts of energy and emotion on unproductive things and people. When you are petty, that means you exhaust large amounts of emotion and energy on unproductive people and things. It doesn't just mean that you hating on somebody. It just means you live a petty life. That means you exhaust unnecessary energy and emotion on unproductive things and people. So a lot of us need to overthrow pettiness by releasing. Listen, that thing is petty. You need to let that go. That happened 10 years ago. It happened 2 years ago. It happened yesterday. But how much more time are you going to give this to your life before you let it go? So what release does, it overthrows pettiness. You decide not to give the most precious things away to things that subtract from you. I say you decide not to give precious things to things that subtract from you. That's just like me giving somebody my baby that I know is a murderer. Why would you give something precious to somebody that you know can't handle what was precious? He says, so when you're petty, that's like you giving what's precious, your time that you can't get back, to somebody that's going to subtract from you. Y'all, I got to move. It overthrows procrastination. Oh, at the root of your procrastination is depression and low self-esteem. The release creates grace, and it creates this direction in your life where you are synchronized with God. So really, instead of you procrastinating, release overthrows procrastination and it releases grace. When you release and you allow God to heal you because you're willing to do the work of release, then that signals to God, now she's ready for new grace. Because I can trust her to let go of procrastination. And then the last one, release removes what's expired and makes room for new. New people, new connections, new career path, new upgrades, new revelations of who you are and what's possible for you. Okay? So the release removes the expired and makes room for the new. And the reason why some of us can't walk in the new is because we have not made time for the new. Okay? So today we're going to deal with honesty. You guys can have homework this week. And Thursday, we're going to meet to talk about the backtrack. We're going to backtrack. I'm going to give you an exercise you can do called the backtrack. And then we're going to discuss your results from the homework. So inside of the group in the files tab, as well as the homework post, you'll see 3 pages. And each page has 3 questions that you can answer about honesty, obedience, and identity. Okay? And so I'm going to read them right quick, and then we're going to close out because I know we've been on for a minute. All right, so I'm going to put it in the chat. All right, so the homework is the real me, getting back to the one that God is in covenant with. So good. Obedience. The first page has these 3 questions. What has God already told me to do that I haven't done? Where am I delaying my own breakthrough through disobedience? And what is one step of obedience I need to take this week? Okay? Now, under identity, because we're dealing with release, right? And identity, obedience, and we're dealing with honesty. Who have I become because of pain, trauma, and survival? Remember, I gave y'all some homework. List the weights. But also, I want you to do the real me. And identity says, who have I become because of pain, trauma, and survival? List those versions of yourself that God did not call, but you have become. Okay? I had a scared version. I had a mean and bitter version. I had a petty version. I was petty because I wouldn't let go of stuff. People did stuff to me. I would just hold on to it, and I was just holding myself back. You holding on, but you're holding yourself back. Number 2, what labels have I accepted that God never gave me? And then number 3, what do I believe about myself that may not be true? Okay, so that's under identity. Okay, and then under honesty, you're going to answer these 3 questions. What am I currently, and y'all don't have to write this down because you have a copy of it inside the group. What am I currently pretending is okay but isn't? What emotions have I been avoiding or suppressing? Remember, I talked about patting those things down. And where have I been dishonest with myself? Where have I been dishonest with myself? So what I want you to do is do those 3 questions for each one: honesty, obedience, and identity, because that's what we're dealing this week. We're resetting with release, releasing what's expired and no longer serves us in identity, truth, let go of the lies, honesty, and then obedience. Because one of the things that I had to do was obey God because I didn't want to let it go. The old me wanted to be stubborn and wanted to be petty, but I had to obey God. So all of these things deal with release. Okay? So if you did not, I know several of you, I know Pastor Tina, Ayana, several of you did the $7 option. If you want to be in the accountability group with us on Thursday, it's going to be at the same time at 7:30, and you guys can join for $7. That's the whole 3 weeks. So just for $7, you can join the accountability session, which is on Zoom. The only thing I ask on Zoom is that you're on camera and you're not in the bed laying down. You're not in the bed laying down. So those are the only 2 things I ask you. You're on camera, and if you're traveling and you're going to be on camera in the next 10-15 minutes, that's fine too. Okay, but we want people to engage because we're going to do some breakout sessions. Yeah, being sarcastic. Yeah. So if you need the link, put link in the comments. Okay, I got you, Miss Jeannie. Put link in the comments for, okay. So put link if you want the accountability link. Just put accountability link, and I'll give you the link to pay the $7. That's going to give you guys the invitation to come into the Zoom. That's not going to be in this group. Okay, it's just going to be for the people that decide they want to be a part of the accountability and go deeper. So what we're going to discuss is the backtrack. We're going to do that exercise on Thursday, and then you guys will go in breakout rooms, and we'll do some stuff on the real me on Thursday. So if that's something you want, I'll put the link inside of each one of you guys that requested it. Okay, I want to hear your takeaways before we get off. It's 9 o'clock. So I've been on for an hour and 15 minutes. I want to hear your takeaways, and if God gives me a word. Okay, I got you, Brandy. I got you, Shantae. I got y'all. Okay. I would love for you guys to be on there. I just have 2 requirements, and that's it. Be on camera and not be lying down in the bed. If you've already paid it, don't worry about it. I know which ones of you guys have paid. I know Charlotte and Pastor Tina and Ayana's paid it. Kesia paid it. I know several of you have paid it. I think Miss Lynn and Monica. Those of you that enrolled in January, y'all already paid it. Okay. I'm talking about the people that's just enrolled lately. Okay. And we're still open. So if people want to enroll and you want to invite someone, we're still going to keep the link open because they'll be able to watch the replays. And you guys, tomorrow, I'm going to put up a question, a Q&A for you to ask a question. So during accountability, we're going to have the first 10 to 15 minutes where I answer a question. about release, reset, or anything that we discussed this week, you can get your questions answered. So we're going to put a timer on of about 10 or 15 minutes, and we're going to answer questions in real time. So if you have a question about release personally that you want answered, that's the beauty of coming into the accountability, so that you can get your question answered and you can be with other people in community. Okay. One thing I learned about community, that's where you really grow. If you want to be on the island by yourself, sometimes you can get breakthrough and sometimes you can't. But when you're in community, you go faster and you go further. You cannot do this life on your own. You have to be willing to allow other people to go on the journey with you. And so I want to read you guys takeaways. So if you put TA : and your takeaway, I'm going to read some of the takeaways, and then we're going to dismiss. We're going to go out of here. If God give me a word, then I'll read. Okay, I'm trying to read the takeaways. I think Shantae says release removes the expired and makes room for the new. Love that. Takeaway: my heart reveals what is in it, but my mind has to agree to release it. It's the truth. And so when we don't know enough word and the word hasn't renewed our mind, that's where the struggle is, because the heart wants to let it go, but the mind won't let it go. Because logically, we're like, we can't let that go. Rationally, they cause me too much pain. I can't let that go. What you refuse to identify, you will never master. That's a good one, Kiwana. If I can't live in my highest truth, I'm the reason I'm bound. That's good, Brandy. Wow. Y'all put some good ones up. Kimberly, my level of telling the truth determines my level of freedom. Yeah. Your level of truth determines your level of freedom. The level of truth you live in is the greatest access. Come on, Jania. The level of truth you live in is the greatest, gives you the greater access to freedom. Come on. That's it, Jess. I have to get my mind and heart to align in order to. So I know Kiwana loves this, and I'm going to let y'all go. I'm going to pray out really quick. But the Lord showed me, he said, the womb and the loins have to agree to give birth. So in other words, I have something in my womb, right? Something's in my belly. But if my legs or my loins, my thighs, and what gives way to open up, to release and give birth to the thing don't agree with the womb, I abort. Come on. So what God showed me years ago, he said, what I want to show you, Rashana, is there has to be agreement within. See, we think it's just us wanting something, but we are wrestling within. A part of us wants something and another part of us is aborting it. So the womb is full, but the loins won't give way and open up for the baby to come out. So you have to let your womb and the loins have to agree. Where there are secrets, you'll never be free. That's it. If trauma happens in my childhood, a part of me is stuck in that age. That's true. Yeah. God can only come into covenant with the real me. That's it, Charlotte. All right, let's pray it out, y'all. Father, we bless you and thank you.